And a good Tuesday morning to you. Roger Hill of Wuthering Heights, VELCO Weather Hazards Forecaster. This is the VELCO Weather Hazards Outlook discussion. Large scale features. We have this big broad area of higher pressure, a ridge of higher pressure supporting that over the western Atlantic. This is slowly shifting eastward. It's going to open the door for a cold front. You can see with a baroclinic zone. Further to the west, a pretty strong digging trough of lower pressure. This is probably going to lift out and be replaced by this digging trough that's going to fill its space. Meanwhile, the whole thing is going to begin to shift east a little bit. And the other thing we're looking at, of course, is this is a remnant tropical cyclone, Eta. And Eta has been a Category 1 hurricane, produced quite a bit of flooding in Honduras, crossed over central Cuba, kind of took a track toward Miami, made a sharp left turn, kind of done a loop-de-loop, and now it's coming out of its loop, and then headed more or less paralleling the coast of Florida. And it looks like the Florida Panhandle potentially could see it. Now, the other thing that's going on this time of year, we're starting to see stronger wind shear. So tropical cyclones are starting to be affected a lot more at this time of the year typically. Not always. Not when they're under a big ridge of higher pressure like this. But in the meantime, we do have some upper-level winds that are probably going to reduce the remnants of Eta. And some of that's going to get caught up in the cold front. That'll be pushing in along about Sunday. But again, meanwhile, that's a long ways off, so not really anticipating anything major in terms of extra precipitable water or heavy-duty moisture that's going to work in our neck of the woods, not until probably Sunday, very late in the period. In the meantime, most of our weather is associated with this ridge of higher pressure, and we're having a beautiful day. This is probably the last really sunny day we're going to see. This cold front will move through on Wednesday. It'll bring us most of the heavier rainfall is going to be to the south and west of our location, and it looks like we kind of see the northern sort of portion of that kind of slip on through during the afternoon, starting around late morning or midday on Wednesday, and then continuing, and then kind of drying up in the late afternoon, and another little batch of precipitation will flare up with the actual cold frontal passage. That'll happen, it looks like, tomorrow evening, or we're talking Wednesday evening, and then another area of higher pressure is going to be building in associated with this colder air that this upper level trough has brought in. And that's good news that we're going to see another string of 3 days of dry weather. However, we won't see the kind of sunshine and certainly not the kind of temperatures that we've been seeing basically in the upper 60s to mid 70s. Taking a look at the anomalous temperatures at 850 hectopascal, about the top of Mount Mansfield, you can see this is well above normal. This is valid earlier this morning. And as we run the model, that above normal temperature you can see is anywhere from 12 to 16 degrees above normal. Looking at the colder air on the other side of that, trough of lower pressure, bringing that in, kind of sliding it in from Canada. So the east is very moist, not so moist, but dry and under the influence of this area of higher pressure. And then the west, of course, is much colder, the baroclinic zone in between, the clashes of air masses and that frontal system. So what ends up happening is along about Wednesday, that frontal system will start to work into the region. We get the rain shower activity in the afternoon, and we're still above normal out ahead of that front. But it does take a little bit of while for the colder air to really make some inroads here. And below normal temperatures, it kind of incrementally come down, and then below normal temperatures will be the rule once we get into this coming weekend. So getting into Friday night, Saturday, you can see that colder temperature there. But look, it gets whisked out pretty quickly by the time we even hit Sunday, so we're already warming up above normal, and we see that into Sunday night and into the day on Monday, and then another shot of colder air. This one is a little bit stronger, and we can see that that makes it in here along about Tuesday into Wednesday of next week. And then from there on, we're probably going to resort to just kind of climatology. This is colder than normal, warmer than normal, builds up again on the west coast, and then shifts into the central part of North America, the mid part of the lower 48, and then that tries to make runs at us, and typically this looks a little bit more zonal, and zonal flow, that is west to east flow, has a tendency to be above normal for us, and indeed this looks to be the case. A little bit of better information here, the European incrementals here showing precipitation. Any of these blue lines is 0 degree isotherm below freezing, aloft at 850 hectopascal. So above freezing means precipitation will be in the form of rain, liquid, and then frozen behind here. So as we run the model here, you can see that just a fabulous day the rest of today, really into a good portion of tonight. We do see some clouds that kind of work in pre-dawn hours, and then from there it's a cloudy day. Got that precipitation ahead of this frontal system. Some of that moisture might be stripped off from Ada, but not really going through Vermont very heavy. You can see we're down to just minimal amounts of precipitation, probably under 1/4 of an inch, and even there, more like maybe 0.15 of an inch. So that's what happens during the afternoon and into the early evening hours, a little bit of a flare up there, and then we start to clear out. A small area of higher pressure begins to build in across the region. This is going to control our weather for the next 3 days to follow. We're talking Thursday, Friday, and into Saturday. That area of higher pressure then pushes off toward the Canadian Maritimes. And then we have slightly colder air that makes it in. This is going to set the stage for, again, here's leftovers of Ada. It really never made a run up, up the eastern seaboard or inland, up the Ohio River Valley, up the Appalachians. So consequently, it's weighted, and a little bit of that moisture then gets sort of pinwheeled off. You can see it here. And that's what's going to be coming through here in the early morning hours, starting the onset. And you can see the air mass is cold enough. This means a little bit of mixed precipitation, maybe a little bit of wet snow. That's a pretty good hunk of moisture right there, better than a 1/2 inch falling in a 6-hour period. And you can see that kind of gets wiped out a little bit. But as it moves on through, a little better slug of moisture working in on Sunday. So it'll be one of these kind of mixed precipitation types, transitioning to all rain pretty quickly. The other thing we have to watch out, you can see the pressure gradient is out of the south here, and we're looking at some good southeasterly winds with this 998 surface low, and it pushes course north and east. And then things kind of, secondary trough kind of drops in with a pretty strong northwesterly flow, although it doesn't look too severe, but it may be an issue with gradient winds beyond this period. We're talking Monday night, Tuesday, but that's also cold enough to produce a little bit of snow, and winter-like conditions will have returned. This is a big area of higher pressure to follow. I suspect that that's going to be building in, and that looks like about the middle of next week. We're talking the 18th of November. GFS ensemble, Canadian ensemble data. That's the 3-hourly QPF. Nothing major to see here, but the total QPF looks like this. And we're talking basically under 1 inch amount, so relatively dry, not a big deal. Weather Prediction Center, total accumulated precipitation for the next 7 days. This has association, of course, with Tropical Storm Ada, and you can see we're kind of on the edge of that. So heavier precipitation to our south, a little bit heavier precipitation associated with that stationary front that we've been seeing, with that big ridge of higher pressure, that trough of lower pressure, and so forth. We're kind of in between, not seeing a tremendous amount of precipitation this period. Switching quickly over to temperature, this is the analysis from the overnight period for the GFS. And you can see colder than normal temperatures, warmer than normal temperatures in the east, and so forth. And you should look at the plot that is also with the European high temperature plots atop of it. That kind of gives you a really good illustration. But this is our sharp cold front that's going to take place Wednesday night, and then much colder days to follow, but relatively seasonal for November. Cold out west, warm in the east, a little bit more neutral here. 3 days later, the weighted MOS temperatures for the next 5 to 7 days, 5 to 8 days, looks like this, running about 3 degrees above normal. Quick look at Ada and the National Hurricane Center track. Now that it's done its loops, it's going to be heading more or less northerly. We have Ada this morning, max sustained winds up to 60 miles per hour. We also have Theta, not really a threat to anybody. That's about 70 miles per hour. And we have one other that looks like a disturbance here that could be developing and more or less heading westbound. This seems to be the grounds now for tropical cyclone development. The accumulated cyclone energy has been high here. It's going to continue that way. And we still have to talk about this, but this is the area. 70% chance of what will be iota. That's right, iota. And last but not least, I'm going to leave you on this note here. So we'll start this over. This is Ada. There's Ada. You can see that it's made its turn. Now it's headed northbound. And what you can discern from this is that it's definitely going to weaken. Meanwhile, this is going to be iota. Theta is off toward Europe now. This is iota. Where is iota going to go? Probably affecting the same unfortunate areas around Honduras, Nicaragua, Costa Rica maybe. And it looks like it's not going to take a northward jaunt. That's it from here. Roger Hill, Wuthering Heights. Thanks for watching.